Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Roundtable of Wraith. I am Chris. He is Ryan. Together, both of us make up the B squad of the Roundtable of Wraith, but we love everything flesh and blood, and we're here to talk some Dynasty today.
Twice in 1 week, Chris. This is what do I owe the pleasure to
I
see
know,
you this
tell me
many
about
times?
it, right? We kind of touched on it last podcast, but maybe our interest, or not interest, but just activity in the game maybe dwindles a little bit at the end of the season. Boom. Hot spoilers. Juices are flowing. We're looking at new cards, support for new archetypes. We're right back in the game, ready
Let's
to
do
roll. Speaking of that, today we are talking about one of your favorite classes and something that you've been a champion of since Monarch or even previously to that, which is the Warrior class. So we weren't really sure exactly what the distribution of these cards were going to be. Obviously, we didn't know if it was going to be, all talents are getting something or not or whatever. But lucky for us and lucky for you, you're a big Bolton fan. We got a pretty spicy legendary here for the Light Warrior Bolton. And you and I were kind of talking about this off camera, but it's interesting to think about how they were going to try to juice up Bolton. What could they do to increase the power of this archetype, And this is a pretty crazy card. So I'm just going to read this here. The Spirit of Irina, I believe, as you said it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So this is a 0-cost light warrior item. So it's an item that stays on the board, and it's a legendary. You can only have one of it in your deck, and it's also a legendary rarity. And it says, if Spirit of Irina will be put into your soul, instead put it into the arena. Then it says, you may play Lumina Ascension as though it were an instant.
Whew.
Ooh, baby. So, Ryan, before you kind of break this down, what we can infer here is that you're going to want to charge your soul with this card to basically get the free value of putting it into the battlefield at quote-unquote instant speed, because you're not using an action to do so. And you're also getting that soul. Well, you're not putting it in the soul, but you're just getting that action cheat, so to speak.
It does count as a charge. So you don't have it in your soul, but it still counts as charging. So it'll fulfill the charge requirements on all of Bolton's cards.
I see.
So that's nice. I really like that clause because without it, this card is still good, but it's probably not as, playable or as busted, I should say. The fact that you're not losing tempo and you're still able to charge and do what Bolton's trying to do instead of playing this is a really nice touch. So I'm really glad. I think that clause is going to get looked over a little bit because obviously the second clause is what everyone's going to be. That's what makes this card insane. But the first part of it is really important as well.
Sure. So considering this is the only card that Bolton is getting, what kind of, and it's a legendary, being that it's only one of in the deck. Do you foresee this, or are you kind of predicting that this is really going to push him up, maybe a half a tier or so, or however you want to phrase it?
It definitely makes him better. Whether or not he's going to, like, Bolton's whole problem is he's not a bad deck. I mean, especially if you play the combo deck, he's not a bad deck. It's just all of his cards are just so on rate. And right now we're in a meta where people don't really block. You have Fi, who's the king of aggro. He's never going to block, so he can just outpace Bolton. So you really never get his ability, and that's the problem there. But this card doesn't necessarily fix that issue, but it does fix a lot of issues in the deck that Bolton had and really fixes a lot of clunky hands. So I definitely think this card this card arguably is probably the strongest card in this set. I know people aren't going to want it because they're just not Bolton players, but it's probably the most powerful card that we got in this set, which is saying a lot. And so, yeah, I definitely do think he becomes a lot more playable. I think he becomes definitely better. And I think that this card opens up a lot of deck building, opportunity for people that do like this hero and do enjoy this hero, like myself. One of the things that we need to remember with Bolton that I think a lot of people kind of have glossed over is, yes, this is only a one of, but he does have Beacon of Victory to just auto-tutor anything that he wants from his deck. So this card is searchable. I mean, obviously it's going to kind of feel bad if you waste a Beacon finding this card, but having that access is a really nice thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Beacon of Victory is such a powerful card with that search ability. But, maybe to kind of parallel something that Levi just accomplished with finishing top 4 at the Battle Hardened in Columbus with kind of a quote unquote dark horse hero in Azalea.
Yeah.
Right now, clearly, except for maybe Josh Lau, there's not a lot of people who are putting the reps in with Bolton. So
Exactly.
maybe that those results are kind of skewed, or as far as, min-maxing the build of the deck is kind of skewed because there's not a lot of people playing it. But, maybe something like this will kind of pique people's interest and kind of get some more data out there.
And speaking of Josh, he just got top 32 at Worlds playing Bolton and CC. So, I mean, he finished top 32, which is an insane feat. He said he's going to be posting a lot of videos specifically talking about this card. So if you do like Bolton, there's going to be videos that he releases coming up in the following week or so when he gets settled in from Worlds. But I think you're right. I think there's a very large tendency in this game, and probably all card games too, for someone to just kind of, it's almost like a hive mind mentality, right? I mean, a perfect example of this also besides Levi is Michael Hamilton, right? Everyone thinks, okay, we're going to play Icelander a certain way, and all of a sudden at Nats or whenever that was, I think it may have been a calling that he won. No, it was US Nats. He comes out with this ridiculous Icelander build with all of these, high rate attacks, and all of a sudden just changes the game. But everybody was so focused on one thing. So yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of it has to do with people just writing off Bolton and saying, okay, that's trash hero. I mean, you look at any tier deck, or tier list, it's like Azalea tier, Bolton tier, and it's just kind of like a meme. But as Josh showed, that's definitely possible to get results with this type of hero, as Levi showed with Azalea.
Sure.
It's definitely possible. You just have to put in the reps, and I mean, this card is going to be tremendous in, getting above that power curve.
Sure. Well, as being someone, I've played Bolton combo a little bit. I've gotten a few reps with it myself. And there is something to be said for any sort of archetype that has the ability to deal 30 plus damage in one turn. It's clearly a very, very powerful thing that, except for like Wizard, at least to this point, doesn't really exist outside of this, light warrior here. So if you haven't tried it, it does kind of seem like a one-trick pony. Obviously, it's a combo deck, so you're trying to do that one thing as efficiently as possible. But it is super fun when you can you put the pieces together of sequencing out your combo turn and figuring out when the right time is to go off with the multiple Luminas. So, and
one of the things. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna quote Mr. Bolton here with Irina's spirit inside him. The ceiling for the combo now is just through the roof.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. And then, like, what this does too is this enables you to combo off on V of the Vanguard turns now. So in the past, before this card existed, you would have to play. If you played V, you couldn't play Illumina because there was a non-attack action, so it would break the chain, and therefore the V, benefit wouldn't carry over. With this card, V of the Vanguard turns are absolutely cracked if you combine them with Illumina Ascension, because you're now getting the buff for V. You're not breaking the chain because now your Luminas come in as instants. You're netting action points, so you don't have to burn soul, and then whatever you're swinging, whether it's the weapon or Raiden, is coming in with whatever you charged by initially for the V, plus 1 or 2 if you're playing double Lumina, and then you're swinging 3 to 4 times. So your ceiling is just absurd with this card on the table with Via the Vanguard. I'm
glad you brought that up because I kind of forgot about that point. But yeah, that's something that we had talked about before as well. But so with you putting that on the table, this now higher ceiling of the Via the Vanguard, do you anticipate that perhaps now Bolton can maybe play to two big V turns as opposed to just that one massive combo turn that we're so accustomed to, at least to this point?
Yeah, I mean, if this thing's on the table, so my opinion on this card too is that it benefits Raiden builds more than it benefits combo builds. I think the combo build is already pretty good. This card obviously helps it, but I think pure Raiden or even hybrid where you're playing Raiden more often, I think this card is really going to shine when you're playing Raiden specifically. But yeah, I do believe if this card's on the table, if you have any V of the Vanguard turn with maybe even one Lumina, I think you're just, it's going to be so much more explosive.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty exciting to think that, as you being a seasoned, you have a lot of reps with Bolton, to think that this card is going to help just that classic Raiden build be a little bit more potent. That's really exciting too. And like you said, you can maybe have a hybrid build where you're, kind of like kind of like a dash situation where you present your hero and maybe they don't know exactly which direction you're going to go, and you can maybe get some points there even before you present your deck to your opponent.
Definitely.
All right, Spirit of Irina. I'm gonna struggle saying that the entire season until I figure that out. I keep wanting to say it different, but I'm gonna go with your pronunciation there. The
Every
widower.
man wants to wear his dead wife's
I mean,
essence on
if
his
you can
neck.
somehow chain the soul, so to speak, into that little amulet. I mean, I guess why not, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, so moving on from the Light Warrior action item, which is very cool. In Dynasty, they have given us some support to this point, which has been basically an archetype that has not existed, period, essentially, which is an axe type build as far as in the competitive light. I mean, when you look at these results from any of these tournaments, Battle Hardened, Calling, these, ProQuest, whatever, you don't really see a ton of warrior in the first place. But let's go one more step further and talk about Axe's warrior, where, I mean, you just don't really see that ever. Top of my head, I haven't seen one, right?
No, it's not existent, yeah.
So in Monarch, they gave us the Hatchet of Body and Hatchet of Mind, which are previously the only one-headed axes to exist. And they also gave us a very powerful Majestic, which was called Spill Blood, which is one cost, axes you control gain +2 power and dominate until end of turn. So, in that Dorinthia axes build, you could set up some pretty big turns when you kept, a lot of resources in your hand and could kind of fire off back and forth. But in this set, in Dynasty, we've gotten a lot of new toys here. And the first one we're going to touch on is just the weapon, which is the Merciless Battle Axe. And this thing is a monster. I mean, you got to have 2 guys picking this thing up, probably. Look at that.
That is merciless for sure.
Huge. So this is a 2-handed warrior weapon, 3 power base, once per turn action, 3 resources to attack. Big blue to get there. And then it says, whenever Merciless Battle Axe attacks, if its power is greater than twice its base power, the attack gains overpower. And overpower is a new keyword for Dynasty, and it says, this can't be defended by more than 1 action card. So it's like kind of a pseudo dominate, but not really, kind of, sort of.
A worse dominate, yeah.
Yeah, but I before we get to that card, I do love the overpower thing, where it's just kind of a cool flavor thing with them being able to somehow figure out a way to give some evasion, but kind of playing off dominate. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting little mechanic there. I don't mind it. I think it's, if this was dominate, it would be so much better, obviously. But I do like kind of getting them to make a decision.
Sure. So on the surface here, it doesn't seem super exciting. It's very expensive. 3 base for 3 is not a great rate. I mean, we've seen other weapons that can do 4 damage for 1. So in that comparison, doesn't seem that great. So let's take a look at some of these support cards that they gave us here for Dynasty for this archetype. We're going to go down here to this common card, which is called Felling Swing. And I think this card's actually kind of cool. It's
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a cycle, red, yellow, blue. It's a 3-coster, and it says your next axe attack this turn gains +6. +6. That's a lot. And go again there. 3 black. We love to see the 3 black on those warrior action cards. So let's just say we have a Felling Swing in the arsenal, and we can block with 2 cards and keep 2 blues. And we're swinging with the Merciless Battle Axe for 9 overpower. So whether that's going to be good enough or not, but what do you think, Ryan? Kind of about just the axe and then something like this to bump it up for the overpower.
Yeah, the axe is interesting. I don't know if one of the things that I'm kind of speculating on this set is they printed cards and they created all these new archetypes, not only for warrior, but for different heroes. But I think they created them for future heroes that we're going to see eventually. Like, we're going to look back and people are going to, like, once heroes are released, they're going to be like, oh, that's what that card's for. And that's just how it feels, because, the axe itself is cool. It's really, it's an interesting thing. And then all this like little support here, but is Dorinthia going to use that axe? Maybe not. Does Bolton want it? Probably, definitely not. Right. So it's interesting to see, where they were coming from a design spot or design space. But then, a vacuum here, yeah, this card seems pretty powerful. It's obviously the axe is going to be a build around because you need a huge density of blues in order to, realistically get this off. But if you're going to play to that, then you're going to include this because you want to trigger the overpower as much as possible, I'd imagine. So playing this into the axe is definitely going to get you there. I mean, 9 where they can only block for 1 card, and warriors historically block very well. So you're just going to be doing these massive swings and chipaways, and then I like this card. If you're going to build around that axe, then this is a card that you're going to put in.
Sure, I definitely like your kind of breakdown there of talking about it's definitely worthwhile to think about these cards in a vacuum, but then to also zoom out and consider the future, like you said. I mean, there has to be in the future a two-handed synergistic axe hero of some sort.
Yeah,
I mean, Spill Blood is just like another piece of evidence where it's like this is going to be like a super power card in the right archetype. It was already good in like an underpowered, quote unquote, underpowered Dorinthia Axes deck. Yeah. And so just think when you get a hero that has some kind of synergy built in as well, or equipment or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, and my head goes to, okay, what region are they going to go to next? And a place that they haven't really been is the Savage Lands. You assume that you're going to get brute support, and I've said it for a couple of or a couple of sets now that I assume that when they do go there, you're going to get something like a Savage Warrior. I mean, if you look at the art on some of these cards, like Felling Swing, right? He's in the middle of the forest, kind of swinging at. Looks like brutes actually, or bigger people. If you look at the art on like Shatter, if you look at the art on things like that. So I do assume that when we do get, or I guess the Majestic that we're going to talk about in a second here, I think we're going to get a warrior of some kind. And if we do get that Savage Warrior or whatever the talent is, I would be absolutely shocked if they print another sword for that hero.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point too.
It's going to be an axe.
It's kind of like the Blade Runner example. It's like that mechanologist warrior or whatever you want to call it, from that metrics area. So yeah, they're certainly dropping little hints in the water here for us to kind of, try to predict what's going to happen. But that is Felling Swing. So 3 for 6 on the red, 3 for 5 on the yellow, and 3 for 4, which is still fine on a blue. I guess
For sure, I think the blue is very good.
Yeah, it still gets the dominate or the overpower on the axe. So it would be kind of a feel bad if they made the blue like not get there on the overpower.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like womp. All right, so after that, the next axe card is I guess the Majestic here. We'll go to that one.
Yeah.
So this is Cleave. Yeah. This is a pretty sick card too. Yeah. Majestic rarity, 1 coster. So since it's a Majestic, it's only a red. There is no cycle here. 3 block, warrior action. Your next axe attack this turn gains +4 power. And when this hits a hero or ally, so you can attack either one, which is pretty sweet, you may deal that much damage to another ally controlled by the same hero. Go again. Very cool. So I do like that they didn't make it to where you have to hit the hero. You can slay 2 allies, just cleave them right across, and that's really, really cool.
Yeah, this card's nasty. This is, even if it wasn't, hit an ally, I think 1 for 4 rate on axes is something that you need, right? Like Spill Blood is +2, Spoils of War is +2. So getting that 4 breakpoint on just a 1 cost is really, really juicy. So if you combine it with like another one of those cards, even if you're not even against an ally, right? You don't need the text, just the 1 for 4, and then combined with something else is just a very good card.
Sure.
And then you would assume that more ally decks are going to get printed. I know Soraya is one of the legendaries that got spoiled, and that's an ally for illusionists. So I mean, I'm assuming that that's kind of a design space that they're going to go for other people as well. It's not just going to be Dromai or Prism or whoever. And so this ability is only going to get better as more and more of those get printed. So I think this card's fantastic. I think any axe build, you run 3 of these automatically, and you just build around it a little bit.
Sure. I certainly like how in this set, without getting into other classes, because maybe we'll get there later, but it's cool that they're giving these powerful, like niche sideboard, quote unquote, type effects to classes where they need a little bit of help in that area. To your point, this vanilla, as of right now with the Axe card pool, is going to go in regardless. But, maybe in the future, 5-10 years down the road, there's so many X cards where this ally ability could just be a metagame call, or the ally ability could be a metagame call, or, who knows. But it's cool that they give you something to like help with something you're a bit soft to as a warrior with, ally spam,
And if you play Hatchets, I mean, Hatchets Dorinthia is kind of like my guilty pleasure deck that I've played for a little bit yet. This is just, I mean, 1 blue, you play this and play the first Hatchet and you're swinging for 6 right away. And if they have dragons out, now you're killing any dragon in the game. Then you're dealing 6 more damage to another dragon. So even with 1 little Hatchet of Mind or Hatchet of Body with this card, you're killing 2 dragons. That's true. Which is huge momentum.
That's true. Cleaven, very cool card, kind of like an AoE type effect. Like the art there, just spraying that blood all over the place.
Yeah, got it. There's a Savage Warrior for you, 2-handed axe wielder.
There it is. All right, so those are basically the X-centric cards that they've given us. So with that, I think I'm going to go back to this Jubilee Spellbane really quick, just to touch on this. This is a very cool weapon for warrior. Very, very, again, kind of just like the cleave example where it's like, hey, here's a little bit of a hedge towards something that maybe you're a little soft to. So it's a 2-handed sword, 3 base power, once per turn action, 1 resource to attack. Just a little bit cheaper than the axe. But it says, whenever this hits a hero and you don't control a Spellbane Aegis, create a Spellbane Aegis token. And this is an aura with, if your hero would be dealt arcane damage, you may destroy this to prevent 1 of that damage. I think this is a pretty cool card.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's also like perplexing. Like, why would they drop this in this set unless this is the warrior or the emperor's like named sword? Why is this here? Like, is it just here for a sideboard? Is it going to be picked up eventually by somebody? It's confusing, but also it's cool. It is an interesting card. What's going to have to happen with this card is, I would assume you're probably going to play this with Dorinthia. And is it going to be worth it to play this over Dawnblade?
Right.
Against, say, Kano or Icelander or the Runeblade, if that's like whoever it is. Like, so I think it's a really cool designed card. And then on hit is pretty threatening against those decks. And so it's going to be a lot of testing to see, is this really a difference maker, or do you just go Dawnblade and try to race them down? That's the decision point that you're going to have to make.
Sure. Yeah. It's, kind of going back again, it's just cool that they give, like, it's just more of a sideboardy type consideration. I mean, it's cool that there's like this kind of quote unquote free 1 point of arcane barrier just built in to this weapon, and like you said, though, it's going to be kind of hard to push out a Dawnblade and a Dorinthia build right now, unless you really, really think you need it. But, initially it's like, you're probably better off just trying to slam them and get those counters on,
Right.
Yeah.
So like it's cool. It's confusing. It's cool. But also take note, the Spellbane Aegis token is one of the coolest looking tokens that we've had in this game.
Oh, yeah.
If you scroll down if you want. Here, all the way on the bottom. I'm looking at it right now.
All right, let's pull her.
Thing is nasty.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, just a wizard guy coming out of like a little thing.
Yeah, where's a cold foil on that, huh?
Yeah, right. Just prevent arcane.
Yeah, nice. Well, that is the what's it called? Jubilee?
Jubile
Spellbane. I think I said Jubilee in the first.
You did. I didn't correct you though.
just let it ride. Just let me embarrass myself. Yeah, I've done that plenty of times on here, so I'm used to that. Anyway. All right, so that is Jubile Spellbane. Also interesting, I guess, that they chose to put the art out in the desert. So maybe
it's just floating. Or is it floating around, or are they just like?
It's like a magic carpet. It's like flying itself to the next spot.
And some dude just grabs it.
Yeah, just picks it up and just slices up arcane wizards. Yeah.
Yeah, this is mine now, I guess.
All right. Pretty exciting here. We have a new one-handed dagger weapon. Quicksilver Dagger. This is pretty sweet. They're at the rare slot. 1 base power, 1-handers. Once per turn action, 1 resource to attack. And it says, if another weapon you control has gained Go Again this turn, Quicksilver Dagger has go again. So as long as you can give one of the daggers go again in any capacity, doesn't matter, then the next one also has go again. So very cool. Very cool. Kind of thinking about the heroes that might play this. We have Kasai Centauri Sellsword, but that is a sword attack, so it doesn't really work with her, unfortunately. So, kind of going back to the card, the dagger. Is this something that you think Dorinthia or something that the Sir Bolton would be interested in?
Not Bolton, but if you're playing, if you've been playing Saber's Dorinthia, I think this is probably a good. You can go one of these and then one Saber. I think it fits pretty well there. I was specking pretty hard when this card got spoiled. I was really hoping that we would get some sort of like game-breaking legendary that allows you to carry a one-handed and a two-handed. And so that's why I was like really excited about this card. Hopefully it gets support down the road. But yeah, as of now, I just think this is going to need a little bit more support to justify it over like even a Saber or axes or hatchets. But yeah, I like this card. I hope that it gets more support down the road a little bit because then it'll be a little bit more playable. But as of right now, I just think both of the current two warriors that we have, not including Kasai, just want their own thing. I think Jubil doesn't fit either one of them, but I think that card is more playable or more useful than this right now.
Yeah, going back to what you said, it just seems again like this is it's going to be something where the heroes release and you're like, bingo, there's the dagger hero or there's the axe hero, and it's all going to come together. Yeah,
exactly.
So after the daggers, there's a few more cards here. So we're going to go to Iron Song Pride, and this is a nice looking piece of art here. I like all the colors here. And what's that? Solana, right? Solana.
It is Solana, yeah.
Yep. So it's a 1-cost majestic, and this is an instant, which is very cool. It's an instant aura. So kind of they're trying to do their best light illusionist impression here. And it says, put a +1 power counter on target sword you control. When Iron Song Pride leaves the arena, remove all +1 counters from swords you control. At the beginning of your end phase, if a sword has not hit this turn, destroy Iron Song Pride. So it's an instant speed. I guess you can kind of think of it, let's just say, as an attack reaction, so to speak. It's a +1 damage instant speed aura that comes into play. But if you don't hit, then all the counters get removed, Dawnblade-esque style. So when I read this card, I was kind of like trying to wrap my head around where is this going to be good at, and I couldn't really pinpoint an exact location, at least in my little pea brain. So, what do you think, Ryan?
I think this card's very good. I think it's a little sneaky instant. I like that it's an instant. And the negative of pulling all your counters off if a sword doesn't hit, that happens anyway for Dawnblade. So drawback isn't really that much. The problem here is that it doesn't block. That's the one thing that it's like lacking. But I think the +1 at an instant, if an opponent's like, perfectly blocking, like let's say you pump it up to 6 or something, or they have the defense reaction. There are so many times where like Dorinthia's math lines up perfectly with the other player. And so if they perfectly block, this gives you an opportunity to just kind of sneak one. Hey, now I'm here. You wasted a bunch of cards. And then, you can reset and swing again with Dawnblade. So I do like this. It's a little sneaky 1 damage. I don't know where it fits yet. I got to kind of look at my Dawnblade list and, make some moves because, with the other ones that we're going to be talking about, there's definitely some cards that gave Dawnblade a little bit or made Dawnblade a little bit stronger. And I think this is one of them. I don't know if this is necessarily a 3 of, but, definitely a 1 or a 2. And it comes in a full art. So it's even prettier than it looks right now.
That's right. Has that is that like a armory kit thing, or do they?
No, I think it's like an alt print in the set. Like you pull it.
Oh, gotcha. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that full art looks pretty cool though. So I guess it hasn't always held true, but generally speaking, these full art extendeds generally, have some legs. So maybe there's something there that we're missing. But yeah, very cool. It's cool that they're incorporating like these auras into all the classes, which is pretty neat space to go. Speaking on the aura note, we have another one here, which is a rare cycle. So this is a red, yellow, and blue. This is the Blessing of Steel. It is a 1-cost aura, not an instant this time, it's a regular action aura. And it says at the start of your turn, destroy Blessing of Steel. Then your next weapon attack this turn gains +3 power. So very reminiscent of like those old school Welcome to Wraith Guardian auras where they stick on the field and then pop the next turn.
Yeah, this one, I need to like sit down and I need to play with this in order to like really see if this is worth it. Cause like off the top of my head, it just doesn't seem like you want to really give up that much tempo because it doesn't have go again. And so it's interesting. I mean, if you're playing like a Dawnblade list and you have to block out and you have like a card or something like that, then yeah, it makes sense to, okay, hey, I'm just going to play this, maybe Arsenal. And then next turn, I'm going to really go off. But I mean, for Warrior thrives on hidden information. That's why like pre-pumps with Warrior, unless it's like, Spoils of War, where you're also getting go again. Pre-pumps are kind of, less ideal than the hidden information of the attack reactions. So the more you present in the beginning, the less or the more information your opponent's going to have in order to decide what to block with. So that's kind of why I don't like this. The difference being is if you can have this on the field and then also have a 5-card hand, which is you're going to take a lot of damage to do that. But if you have that, maybe a 4-card hand or something with this on the field, and this kind of acts as a 5th card, which is pretty good. So it all depends. I think it's probably not worth it. I'd rather play just like, Sharpened Steel or something like that. But I need to play with it to fully grasp how strong it's going to be, or if I'm correct in my decision.
For sure. I would hedge towards your analysis where it does seem a bit underwhelming on the surface. But, Warrior's Valor, Spoils of War, Sharpening the Steel. There's already so many of these good options at the red slot for the pre-buff if that's what you're going for. So it's like, do you need another one of these sorts of effects or not? You know how we've been talking about hinting at the future. It is interesting that the flavor text here is by Hala Goldenhelm, and that is the person that is on Spillblood, I believe. So
Spillblood is no, that's a different guy,
isn't it? The quote I meant. Sorry.
The quote on the
Daru
guy is
Ashengard.
Like, yeah, I think I wanted you to live longer, something like that.
Well,
really cocky. Hala has been on something else before, though.
Okay, maybe they're like they're axe buddies. They sharpen each other's axes, on the side.
They could be,
But yellow for 2, blue for 1.
Yeah, I don't think those are playable at all.
Nah, it doesn't seem great.
It would be red or nothing here.
So before we move on, I've proceeded to, or I've been able to embarrass myself twice now so far. So let's see how many more we can get before we end the pod here. So we could get a new roundtable record for as many punts as possible.
There you go.
Precision Press. Look at this guy. He's got the sword up. He's just gonna poke you with that little thing. And it says it's a 1-coster action. Your next sword or dagger attack this turn has go again and piercing 3. So piercing 3 is a new keyword we haven't seen yet in this warrior class, which is if it's defended by an equipment, it has +3 power and go again. So like going back to the daggers, it does fulfill that go again clause to give it go again on the surface, but kind of to your point about the Blessing of Steel, this is just full information that your opponent has just on a go again and a piercing 3. So I don't know. Doesn't seem super great though on the surface. Yeah,
just giving piercing doesn't seem fantastic. This works better, I think, with it says next sword. So it's not even like if they ignore it, it doesn't last the whole turn. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. It's obviously better against like, Oldham, who wants to like use Rampart, but then he can just not use Rampart and then you don't get the +3. So
yeah, I guess
if this was like sword or daggers this turn gain piercing 3 or something like that, I think that would be a little bit better. But it says he just doesn't have to block the first one, and then the second one he can just keep going as business as usual.
That's true. I think it is cool though for Warrior that say if you do play this card and now they're like, oh man, your Dawnblade has piercing 3. They have to now consider reprise and piercing both which is I guess kind of cool, because before it's like if you just swing a naked go again, it's like I can just cover it up with my 2 and my chest and my arms or whatever, and I'm good to go. But I don't know.
It does get into the reprise, which is also kind of counterintuitive. Not counterintuitive, but it's a little bit like the more and more we get these attack reactions, we're going to talk about the next one that I think is actually pretty good. Like the less reprise is becoming a thing because all these ones that are just like that don't have reprise in order to trigger are going to replace the reprise cards that are already in the deck. So yeah, you're always going to have like Glint. You're always going to have like Singing Steelblade and things like that. So if you are baiting out those cards, it's actually good. That's a good point that you made. But you're now going to start running less of those in your deck because they're printing reactions that don't have reprise on them.
Sure. So yeah, this is a red for +3, yellow for +2, and blue for +1. Womp. So let's move on to that attack reaction you were talking about, which is Puncture. Just a straight stab right through the gut there. It's another 1 cost, 3 block attack reaction. Target sword or dagger gains +3 power and piercing 1. So in my Dorinthia deck, I'm not sure if you do too, but a lot of times you see people playing Razor Reflex or Thrust from the dual deck or whatever, the Battle Classic deck, and that's just it's a 1 for +3 with a 2 block. So this is automatically an upgrade to that slot if you're playing that card.
Yeah, and I like this card better than like Stroke of Foresight, and that's one of my favorite cards that's in like the deck. I think this just safely replaces that card almost immediately. Just because this is a potential for a 1 for 4 at reaction speed, and now that this card is more punishing because it's a reaction, so it's hidden, and it's if they have to just always be aware of, okay, well, I'm just going to throw my arms at it. And now you're going over by 1 because if they perfect block with an equipment piece or with like Ram's Head or something like that, you're just like, psych. This is like effectively eliminates Ram's Head because you're getting the +1 and the +3. So you're negating Ram's Head, which is really strong. So yeah, I really like Puncture. I think it's very good. I think this blue one might even be worth it too because it's potentially a +2.
Yeah, the blue is 1 for +1 power, which still has piercing 1. So yeah, like you said, one for 2 is very, very good. And
especially reaction speed. Yeah.
To your point there about the Stroke the Foresight, yeah, I mean it's a lot of times. This is kind of not fair to say, but there are times where you play the Stroke of Foresight, maybe it's in your arsenal or something, or it's the last card in your hand, and you get a little bit of value off that trigger, but maybe not as much as you would want. So yeah, having this potential extra one damage there to go over the top is a 1 for 4 is certainly no joke. And
1 for 4 reaction with this ruins math, which is really good. This is gonna mess with some people. I think I really like this card
for sure. Yeah, definitely a cool card. Yellow is a +2, so maybe 3 total damage, but we're focusing here on the red and the blue. One more card here. This is called Visit the Imperial Forge. This is a 0 cost 3 block action, and it says sword and dagger attacks have piercing 3 for the entire turn. The entire turn, sword and daggers have piercing 3. Go again. So
this is more like it, baby.
Yeah, pretty cool. What are you thinking about this one?
I like this card better than I like the other one. I think the fact that you can have it the entire turn is legit. This is a legit consideration to have to run this in blue. And maybe even red if you're building around, if you're expecting a lot of Oldhim or if you're expecting a lot of just block heavy decks like Guardian specifically. I think this card is great because it lasts the entire turn. So if you're able to swing, maybe you're using the not the Iron Song daggers, the Quicksilver daggers. Maybe you're running a dagger build or you're even pure Dawnblade. This can eliminate the use of armor against you, which makes the Guardian's life a little bit tougher because, they want to throw Rampart in. They want to fix their math a little bit. So yeah, this card is definitely worth testing out. I think I like it better than the other one, but yeah, it's cool. I like that lasts the whole time.
Piercing 3 is a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. So do you think, are you looking at both the red and the blue, or just not really sure yet, or what's your initial?
Definitely the blue. Just because even piercing 1, if you can turn off Ram's Head for an entire turn, that screws up Oldhim. And Oldhim matches are all about like incremental gains. Like you're not trying to go super tall because he can cover it pretty well or he can ice react. So it's like, hey, if I can like little stab you here and get like 1, 2, and then maybe block you out and do the same thing over again, that's kind of like the line of success there, the line of the victory there. So the blue one I think is very good. I think the red one could be really good too. I think it might just be a little bit overkill because again, it is information that's on the table. So you present a +3, no one's blocking with equipment that turn. They're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So the +1 is still a consideration, but it's enough of them to be like, okay, so I need to throw a card from hand in here. I need to do this. Maybe I'll throw Ram's Head and then I can nullify the +1, whatever it is. It's still a decision for them. So I think the blue is pretty staple. I think the red and the yellow might be overkill. We'll have to see.
Sure. So going through these cards here, Ryan, we're looking at the Spirit of Irina. Certainly going to play that. We're looking at Puncture. Certainly going to play that. We're looking at Iron Song Pride as a point of testing as far as see what's going on with that. The 0 block is certainly something to consider, though, as being an instant in a warrior deck.
Tough, yeah.
Yeah. But besides that, were there any others that really stood out to you that we kind of went over, except for Puncture? I guess
Cleave.
Cleave. Yeah, Cleave. So yeah, it's cool that they're sprinkling in this axe stuff, but as we've been saying the whole time, I think the potential here of this axe build is still yet to be seen. So, do you think you're going to try anything with Dory axes this season with Dynasty coming out?
Yeah, definitely. I have it still sleeved up. I think my focus is going to be probably Bolton right away. But I am interested enough in Cleave, especially, but then also the Felling Blows. I think, she runs a pretty high density of blues, and that deck blocks pretty well. So those cards alone might be worth it, or might have given her a little bit of an edge there, a little bit more. It definitely didn't hurt the deck. So anything that gives you, +4 or +6, is gonna make it a little bit stronger. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to mess around with. I am interested in the Merciless Battle Axe and the daggers. I just, for whatever reason, it just does not feel like we have the hero yet that is going to be best utilizing those cards.
Sure. Well, I think it's fair to say that we can hopefully anticipate some Spirit of Irina Bolton analysis from you moving forward through the winter months here once Dynasty releases. So if that's something you're into, if you're a big Josh Lau enthusiast, Bolton enthusiast, all things Warrior, Ryan is right there with you. And I certainly have played a fair share of Dorinthia and not so much Bolton. I've definitely played it enough to get a taste of what the combo is like. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll see how much further we get here in these hot takes or initial impressions of the set. But appreciate you guys sticking around. Thanks for watching. Any comments, make sure you leave them down below. On behalf of Ryan, I am Chris, Roundtable. We'll see you next time.
See you.